And let's talk about the disaster recovery business line because that operation is pretty intense, right? And a lot of stuff is last moment. We don't know when the disaster is going to strike, but we got to be ready, right? So how do you like prepare for that? There's a lot of true firefighting and like the team coming together for 15, 20 hours of work at a time. Tell us more about how does that work?
Yeah, we could talk for hours on this subject. So first and foremost, my two business partners really brought all the subject matter expertise around this topic and the relationships. So first, we don't just mobilize to a disaster affected region and put a sign up and say, here we are. We mobilize there with customers that we have deep relationships with, that when they mobilize, we mobilize with them. These are the restoration companies, the equipment rental companies, people that are hauling equipment that requires fuel to operate. So their equipment obviously is no good without the fuel to operate. There's a lot involved. Some of the things you don't think about is typically in the early stages, you need to arrive before the event, right?
Yes.
Because you need to top off, and then you get your crew out of the region where the storm is anticipated.
Oh, wow.
You let the storm come through, and then you mobilize back in then to start the recovery effort. And so in the early stages, there's often no food, there's no electricity,
Oh, wow.
there's often no cell phone
Yeah.
signal or very limited cell
Yeah.
phone signal. In many cases, there's no water.
Yeah.
And you build a bit of a community. And what I mean by that, you
Yeah.
set up a small town with housing,
Oh,
with
wow.
food preparation and cold food storage,
Right.
places to wash uniforms, shower trailers.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes into it. And the other piece of that is the human element. Not every driver that we have would enjoy that. We have another part of our organization that they absolutely enjoy that
Right.
kind of long, intense work. It's exhilarating to them, and to help people going through this is something that they get a lot out of, as do we. So it's an interesting business. We learn something from every event, even today. We've done many, and there's not one that happens that we don't learn something from.
So let's talk about, these are not easy operations to run. And as you identified, there's not just like different operational elements to each of these business line, but then also different personalities of people. Because like someone who's going to thrive in this high stress, intense environment may not like the day-to-day, let's just go deliver to a farm, and vice versa.
That's right.
And you're managing all these personalities and people and workflows. How are you guys thinking about workforce development, and what's your philosophy around that?
Yes, one of the things that I think our drivers understand is it's really the growth of our core business that allows us to play a bigger role in our disaster response business. Granted, while it may not be as challenging and exhilarating on the day-to-day business delivering to commercial customers, they understand that's part of what is required to build the fleet, to maintain a fleet, so that when a disaster happens, we have the assets and we have the personnel to mobilize to the event and still take great care of our core customers. Yeah, I hope they understand that.
No, yeah, I think
understand that.
I think that's interesting because it is true. Like one part of the business enables you to do other parts. And I'm sure you're bringing a lot of learning back from the field on if you turn the volume up by 10 or 10x to a regular operation, what could happen. So really stress testing your regular operations and personnel, and then like bringing that back, and just because of that, you're that much robust in your day-to-day operations.
Yeah, I would say we do some efficiency testing by default during those events.
Yeah.
If it takes a dozen trucks and bobtails in a particular market to cover the customer base, and you only have 9 to do it with now during a disaster event because 3 of those trucks from that market were allocated to the disaster, the job gets done, and it gets done well. It might be putting more on night shifts, so you're slip seating trucks that maybe you originally just ran a day shift on. Also, by the way, we really like to focus on having people in other areas of the company that are qualified, that are CDL licensed, have their hazmat and have their tanker. We have several salespeople that fit that, Every dispatcher we have has a CDL,
Oh, wow.
a hazmat, and a tanker. And so when necessary, we can deploy people into those critical driving roles.
It's true all hands on deck.
It's
then.
true all hands on deck.